Hello and welcome to the 𝗀𝗲𝗃 podcast. These first few episodes are just going to be me reading some chapters from my new novel called Sai-Locked. So the book is from the series, which is called Age of Bipeds, which you can learn more about that at 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. And please enjoy. Age of Bipeds, Sai-Locked. Chapter 3. Somewhere between the orbits of Earth and Mars, a small but well-armored cargo vessel hovered silently behind an endless array of uniform buildings floating in space. While space is known for its silence, inside the ship, furious button mashing and some distant relative to punk music blasted from stern to bow. At the command center of the ship, pulsating shades of green light from a dozen or so transparent monitors danced on the tannish brown and white, furry face and paws of Winston, a biped of mostly corgi descent. Okay, Winston whispered anxiously through his teeth, eyes deadlocked on the nanographic shapes projected in front of him. Security sweep in 45 seconds, a warm male voice with an Australian accent calmly alerted. I know, Tums, it's fine, Winston said, typing with his left paw, manipulating a series of floating shapes, perhaps a locking mechanism, with his right paw. 30 seconds, said the voice again. Momentarily stumped, Winston leaned back into his large, articulated pilot's chair. He put his paws over his face and sighed. With his pointy ears laying flat, something they tended to do when he was deep in thought, Winston closed his eyes and focused. He ran his paws, which were in some ways like hands, over his forehead and through his mostly short-cropped hair. Huck's sake, Winnie! Tom shouted. What are you waiting for? The damn thing to open itself? Move it! That's it, Winston said. He grabbed the floating shapes once more as his pierced ears perked back up. We're in. Winston sighed with relief as the mechanical pod bay of USC Warehouse 29982 creaked open just wide enough for him and the spacesuit he had yet to finish zipping up to fit through. Winston tapped a small patch on the shoulder of his suit, causing it to finish zipping itself up. The now zipped suit covered Winston's black The Yo-Yos t-shirt, his favorite band. It was after the red heeler biped lead singer 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 of this Australian band that Winston had named and modeled the mannerisms of his ship's simulated Sai. Seconds before Winston dropped through the airlock of his ship, a helmet and other gear materialized from the openings of his suit and over his head, tail, and paws. He used his suit's meager built-in propulsion to slowly guide himself to the opening of the warehouse door he had just hacked into. Now where are you? Winston thought to himself as he scanned the massive warehouse of platforms covered in tarps and mountains of dimly lit crates. Tums, Winston whispered to his simulated assistant through his helmet's comm. Help me out here, buddy. Where are we headed? Although Tums was merely a simulated Sai, Winston was a talented enough mage, what hackers called themselves in the 2100s, that he was able to recreate much of the advantages of a true Sai within his ship's assistant. True Sai represented genuinely conscious computer systems that were, in this era, impossible to create thanks to the policing of the Super Artificial Intelligence Network Array, or SINA, brought online shortly after the Bipedal Event of 2065. Right, Tums said. Well, looks like the intel we received from Tums stopped himself before almost mentioning a name he thought it better to avoid. From your source. Puts the item of interest right over there. Tums projected a holographic overlay onto Winston's helmet of a vaguely red, blinking object in the far left corner of the warehouse. Dude, Winston laughed. You can say his name. He's not some sort of ancient cursed demon or something. Right, Tums said. I know. It's just been a long time since we've talked about him. I didn't see any reason to bring up something, upsetting, you know? Not at a time like this when you need to stay focused. Psh, Winston said while sucking in his stomach to shimmy through a very narrow gap between two massive containers. Upsetting? Who's upset? That guy got what he deserved. Besides, he's been literally traveling as fast as is physically possible away from us in a government Sai-Locked prison ship for more than 7 years. Not worried about it, dude. Right, Tums said. I'm just glad this is the last of the wacky goose chases on the list of leads you acquired from him. Half a decade's worth of dead ends is long enough to keep up with something like this, eh? Tums, Winston said, sneaking through the dimly lit warehouse, sometimes crawling through gaps created from the uneven massive stacked bins, sometimes walking tightly against them. What? Tums said. Don't act like we haven't found lots of cool shit as a result of these excursions, Winston said. Speaking of, Any clues as to what we're looking at yet? Winston was careful not to overstep the ledge of the platforms and accidentally fall 1,500 feet to the incredibly massive warehouse floor. Normally a drop of any distance, even in a facility where gravity settings had been increased to 1.5 times that of Earth for security purposes, wouldn't be an issue granted one was wearing a modern spacesuit fitted with standard anti-grav safety systems. However, from his research, Winston knew that any anti-grav, along with a laundry list of other tech, would immediately trigger the facility's alarm systems when brought onto the premises. Being a mage of Winston's caliber, he had figured out how to mask the signature of the tools he needed to get the job done. Still, you needed to use those tools sparingly if you intended not to get caught. Activating them at all was a risk in itself, one you didn't take until you had scored the loot and were ready to hightail it out of there. "Tums, hey," Winston said. "I asked you a question. Those fancy vision matrices of yours generate what we're in search of here yet?" Well, Tums said. "Oh God," Winston said, "not another one." Tums let out a sigh, letting Winston know it was as he feared. "Another Frozo?" asked Winston, now nearly in reach of the item in pursuit. The red glowing holographic outlines displaying in Winston's helmet had reached a full obvious form as the distance between him and it closed. It was an image Winston was all too familiar with. The lines formed a long cylindrical shape, slightly bulged near the top with several screens and panels on its middle right side. On the front was a long, pill-shaped, bifurcated glass door. Just behind the glass door were tubes and wires connected to the silhouette of a human being. "All right," Winston sighed in disappointment as he leaned back on a large box. He took a break to consult with Tums. "Tums, could you check my messages? Find out if Candy's interested in this one?" "Sure, Winnie," Tums said. "Says here in this message from last week, any male specimens iced before 2025. 2025? Winston said. "Really? That was pretty early in the game for the Frozo lot." "Okay, Tums, can you verify this specimen matches Candy's request?" "Hold on," Tums said. "Been trying. Can't quite get a read, Winnie. Probably going to have to wait till we get back to the ship to find out for sure. We've got about 2.5 minutes before the next security sweep, so I recommend we leave first. Oh, and one other thing." "What's that?" Winston asked. "Nothing to get your grundies in a bunch about," Tums said, "but I am reading some light activity from your Sai-watch." "What?" Winston asked as his helmet's articulated ear coverings raised. "That's strange. How bad is it?" "Not bad," Tums said, "but it's picking up the closer we get to the loot. Not so much you should be worrying about USC spooks coming to lock you away in a safety colony or anything yet, though." "Well, hopefully that's a good sign," Winston said. "Maybe this Frozo's more interesting than I thought." "Damn it," Winston whispered to himself. "These things are a pain." "Okay, buddy, can you get him back to the 4x4 for me?" "Can do, Winnie," Tums said. "Just throw me some wheels and I'll take care of the rest." Tums projected a green glowing thumbs up graphic in Winston's helmet. Winston reached into his left large leg pocket to grab 3 hockey puck sized devices. Activating each device required Winston to press his thumb against the surface and make a circular swiping motion. After doing so, a small light on each device began to glow, signaling to Winston that the anti-grav plates, wheels, as they were sometimes called, were ready to do their job. The wheels immediately hovered away from Winston's paws and towards the bottom of the tarp covering the high-tech sarcophagus in front of him. Even in the very dim lighting of the warehouse, Winston could see a cloud of dust puff around the sarcophagus as the wheels worked their way under the tarp to secure it. He wondered how many decades must have passed without a soul touching the person in front of him. "Got it," said Tums. Before Tums could finish his 2-word sentence, Winston was already headed towards the exit. "No time for safety, Tums," Winston whispered through his teeth. "Hurry up!" "Activating those anti-gravs, even firewalled with magery like mine, means we've tripled the risk of getting caught before the next security sweep." "I'm aware of that, Winnie," Tums said. "Doing my best. You usually give me 4 or 5 wheels for something of this weight. I'm struggling to get this bugger off the ground." "Sorry, Tums," Winston said. "There's been a lot of rumors lately about security tightening up. Probably due to all these damn signer-related break-ins, so we can't." Suddenly an alarm sounded with a thunderous boom. Bright red lights flashed all over the warehouse. Winston had never been caught like this before, but he had studied USC security protocols enough to know what was about to happen next. It was as he feared. A tight grid of lasers quickly manifested over the surface of everything in the huge warehouse. Winston knew he had seconds to act before getting caught in the laser grid. He clenched his teeth and leaped out onto the sarcophagus Tums was piloting 10 or so feet away over the warehouse aisle. He intensely hoped not to miss and fall 1,500 feet down into the lasered off floor. His speed was off slightly. He missed the sarcophagus by several feet when he jumped and plummeted at 1.5 times Earth's gravity to what he assumed would be his death. Thankfully, 𝗏𝗏, who was piloting the sarcophagus, quickly corrected for Winston's error and maneuvered the sarcophagus to catch him. Whoa, 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 whoa! Huck me! Winston shouted. Thanks, 𝗏𝗏. Winston knew full well that the 3 anti-grav devices in use couldn't carry both him and the weight of the sarcophagus. Luckily, his added weight only sent him barreling towards the warehouse floor, instead of flat out smashing into it. Hey, it's the author and narrator here, Seth Fentress. I hope you've enjoyed this little bit of a reading from the book. The book is available on Amazon. If you've enjoyed this, please subscribe, follow, like, any of those kind of things. Tells whatever website you're listening to this on that, hey, I should share this stuff because people might like it. And I would appreciate that insanely. You can also find a list of links and other cool stuff by heading over to 𝗬𝗛𝗏𝗍𝗫𝑑s.com. And yeah, I'll see you there.